Well, earlier this week, a woman opened fire at a Dallas airport, and it caused quite an incredible and scary scene. Thankfully, nobody was seriously hurt in the whole melee. But joining me now is someone who was there and experienced it all firsthand. Elle Gilman was there. Elle, thank you for being here.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
So I just wanted to walk through this experience, Elle, because thankfully, as I said, this one ended up positively, as these things go, as we've seen these headlines around the country, these tragic shootings that are going on, and people seem more prone to do these sorts of things in public places. So I just wanted to get your experience with this. Where were you when this was going on? And let's just take it from the beginning. You were headed to the airport, and what happened?
I was actually headed to my office from the airport. I had just landed there, and I was going out through the security doors and down into the baggage claims area, and then also to the left is the ticketing area. So as I walked out of those security doors, I heard a lot of commotion, and then immediately saw directly below me all of these people running. And I mean, things were being pushed over the ropes, where people were tangled up in the ropes. Some people were laying on the ground. There were also these like plexiglass dividers that kind of funneled people in through the ticket line. And those were all being, run into. People were ducking under them, trying to get out. I mean, people were going in so many different directions. So when I saw all of that, I looked immediately down below me, and almost directly below me was I see a gun. The gun had been pointed at people. It wasn't up in the air yet, as I heard that it eventually went up in the air. I immediately turned. I wasn't really sure where I could go because the security doors behind me had locked, and the only way out was down the escalator. There were about 14 other people on the landing with me. And at that point, we started hearing the gunshots. I would say probably 12 to 13. I think they said there were 3 or 4 rounds that were shot. And those I didn't know at that time, but those were being shot into the ceiling. So, yeah. So it's kind of that fight or flight feeling that you get, and you're not really sure what to do or where to go. Almost at that moment when I had no clue where to go, it was honestly, I feel like my faith helped me, but I felt like God opened doors for me because I was standing there, and all of a sudden employee locked doors opened, and we were taken back into a completely controlled and locked area where there were only employees, and they locked the doors behind us. At that point, Yeah, crazy. At that point, we just kept walking back as far as we could go into the building. And we went into a room that was completely glass enclosed. I don't think we were being led into any area at that point. I think the first person that went into those doors just kept walking back, and we followed her as far as we could go. At that point, an employee actually asked us to move to a different room because the room was glass and wasn't safe. So he moved us into a conference room, and there were about 12, like I said, 12 to 14 of us that were put into a conference room. Yes.
So Elle, sorry to interrupt, but so you talked about that fight or flight feeling. So you saw the commotion downstairs, you hear the gunshots. How long does it take your brain to sort of process, okay, this is an active shooting situation? Because I know a lot of times, if you see something happening in front of you, sometimes, you're just lost in thought. You're thinking about your day, you're thinking about your job, and like it just takes you some time to process what's actually happening right in front of you. So how was that processing for you? Was it pretty quick, or did it take a minute for you to realize what actually was going on?
Yeah, I was in quite a bit of shock at first when I actually saw the black hood and the gun. I kind of stopped and just kind of watched what was going on. But it seems like it was forever till I started moving, but I'm sure it was only a matter of seconds. In my head, I'm like, this is it. This is it. Because at that point, you're thinking, is there more than one shooter? What other weapons do they have? Where else are they in the airport? So a few seconds later, then when the gunshots went off, that's immediately when I just ran.
Mm. So then now you're tucked into this room and you're in a seemingly safer place now. And so what's transpiring in your mind there, and then what are the next few moments like after that?
Sure. Well, there was a gentleman, an employee there, who seemed to be getting information from downstairs as to what was going on. So he let us know that, they were trying to handle the situation. He brought us a whole bunch of bottled waters. And, it was at that point I realized I had no control over my body. There was a gentleman in the room who gave me his seat and told me to sit down. I mean, I was just uncontrollably shaking. I remember hearing people all around me picking up their phone, calling their loved ones, and it took me back. Honestly, it took me back to footage of 9/11, because it's like you just don't know what's going on, and you don't know if it'll be the last time that you talk to the people you love. I heard a lady on the phone with, I'm guessing, her husband or loved one. She had her 4-year-old or 5-year-old child with her, but her 2 teenagers were stuck somewhere out there in the middle of it. She lost track of them while running. So she was stuck back in that room, not knowing where other 2 children were, and they weren't answering their phones. So, yeah, it was one of those moments where you start realizing how bad the situation could possibly be.
You had mentioned in your Facebook post that you were thankful for the officers that responded quickly. And I think you can get, of course, being in a situation like that, I'm sure there's a new appreciation for running towards the sound of gunfire versus running away from it. And you can see in the footage that these officers did. One who was right next to the woman ran behind the kiosk just to get cover, but then immediately engaged, and the other officers could be seen running towards it. So was that your sentiment as well?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, they acted very quickly. And I do believe that while I was running and being left back into that employee area, I believe the suspect was apprehended very quickly. So they did react very fast.
Yeah. Well, thank God they did act quickly. Thank God this one didn't end as tragically as we have seen, as I said, in other shootings around the country. So, Elle, thank you for sharing your experience here with us today.
My pleasure. Thanks, Dan.